Thank you both for those wonderful introductions. I think it will give my students a better chance to know the context around, why I invited you to share what you know about the Ratwa and about Bhasha in general. So let's begin with actually that with Bhasha. Could we learn a little bit about your organization and how it came to be and what roles it plays in the lives of Adivasi communities?
Yeah, sure. So Bhasha was started by an academician, Dr. Ganesh Devi, who used to teach English literature at the university in Baroda. While he was still a teacher, he used to go around and visit nearby villages and trying to understand their issues, etc. When he was 50, he decided to take early retirement and he established Bhasha. Now, the idea behind establishing Bhasha at that time was very academic. He was engaged with the question of disappearing languages, or languages which were dying or endangered. And so he was working with the Sahitya Academy, which is the national, an equivalent of National Literary Foundation, something of that sort, which awards projects in literature to writers. And it also gives national awards for the best novel or the best collection of poetry and stuff like that. Sahitya means literature in Hindustani or Hindi and Sanskrit, and that is why it is called the Sahitya Akademi. Akademi is kind of a form of the word academy English, because we were also a colonized nation, so a lot of English words have been Hindified, and so it is called Akademi. So it is the Sahitya Akademi. And his book, called After Amnesia, won the Sahitya Academy Award in the year 1993, 92 or 93. And in this book, he explored what the collective Indian imagination has lost because of the colonial years in between. We were ruled by the British for almost 200 years. So, what we were ruled by the Mughals before that and other empires before that, but those continued to be Asian. So there was some amount of give and take. Whereas the British were a completely foreign people who came into India, and their habits were different, their clothing was different, the language was, everything was different, and how they successfully were able to destroy the confidence which the people had in themselves. And that therefore that book was called After Amnesia, that there is there was a period where you completely forgot what you were. Anyway, so he had this association with the Sahitya Academy, and then he convinced the Sahitya Academy that there are many languages in India. India, by the way, has more than 700 languages and dialects which are actively spoken even today. So he said that there are many languages which don't even have a script, and these languages are like all languages, no matter how many people spoke it, is always extraordinarily rich in imagination, in its knowledge systems, in what it is able to express, how it is able to express things, how human beings interacted with each other, what were the names for things, why were they called that, what were their understanding of nature, and all of that. And once a language dies, a huge amount of knowledge base gets lost with it. So the first project which Bhasha got after it was established was very academic in nature, and it was to translate a number of writings in the northeast. Northeast is an area in India which has a long border with China. It's in the eastern part of India. And it has numerous tribal communities. It's one of the richest tribal areas of India. And the project was to translate the works in these languages into English so that the rest of India can read and understand what these people are thinking and writing about. But while we were doing that, in that process, we were able to understand that which are these languages which are dying. And when we asked that question, we found that it was basically the languages which belonged to the marginalized communities, to the indigenous communities. Because they didn't have power, they didn't have a voice, their languages continued to remain in an oral format and didn't have a script. And so it was, they believed, or they were made to believe, that their languages were not good enough to have a script, were not good enough to be the official language of any kind of transaction. So then it was that we realized that if these people, if we don't work with these people, if the people disappear, the languages are obviously going to disappear. There's no point in keeping a language alive with nobody to speak it. And so we became a little more activist in our attitude, which, the academic part continued, but which became activist. And we decided to have an academy for the Adivasis or for the indigenous communities in an area where they live themselves. So the government gave us this land on lease at village Tejgarh, which is in the middle of the Rathwa tribal community. And it is 90 kilometers, so about 40, 45, 50 miles, in your terminology, from Baroda, where the city where we are. And we started the academy over there. The first thing which came up there was the museum. We wanted the tribal communities to understand that what they own, what they know, what they think is important to their culture is something which should go into the museum, and people should come and see it and enjoy it. And then, so the museum started. With that, the library started. And then with that, we had a small, administrative wing. And then we started classes. We started teaching people over there. And then we started the Vasant Shala, a schooling program for children of migrant tribal families who dropped out of school because they would travel with their migrant parents, and therefore they would not have a school to go to. So we decided to have a residential school. We couldn't afford too many children. So we, at the moment, have 60 children, both boys and girls, from the age group of 6 to 12. And we try to bring them up to a standard, an academic level, by way of which they can be mainstreamed into regular schools in grade 5 or grade 6. And that's the way they can finish their education. But the important part of the schooling program was that we began to teach them in their language, in their mother tongue, which was not what is happening even today in rural and tribal India. Every school in rural and tribal India, the medium of instruction is the state language, and it may not necessarily be the language which is spoken by the children who attend that school. Since it is a language which they do not understand, most children drop out because they just cannot understand what the teacher is speaking. And often teachers might get violent also with them. And so obviously they don't come back to school. So our experiment with this, with Vasanta Shala, which is the schooling program, has been quite successful. And we have a number of university interns and students and teachers studying education who come and study the way we are working with these children. So that is, so Bhasha has an office in Baroda, which is an administrative office. We look at I sit there, so as does Sonal, and we look at, funding possibilities, proposal writing, managing the programs that we have, managing the projects that we have. And at the Adivasi Academy, all our actual work gets done. So that is the background of Bhasha. Your team has visited our office in Baroda, and it has visited the academy as well. Mike, you could perhaps show pictures of both places to your students, and they would get an idea of what we do. But we have a very extensive websites also. Bhasharesearch.org is the basic website, and there are 5 more. So all of you can go and look at the website. And we would love to have any of you who would like to come and intern with us. You're most welcome.
Sonal, did you want to add anything to what Sandhya's shared?
No, that was quite a comprehensive
Agree.
summary, an introduction and summary to Bhasha's work. I would just like to add that Bhasha is a Hindi word, not only Hindi, but it's used across several languages in India. It basically means language. And many people, visitors to Bhasha, uh, they first think that Bhasha is a language institute. Actually, the word Bhasha was chosen as voice of the marginalized communities, as the Adivasis or the denotified communities. And over the years, we have worked in very many spheres and we have had many activities. Some we have succeeded, some we have not. But basically, our work revolves around languages, especially the languages not recognized by the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution recognizes only 22 Indian languages. So there are many more which are not recognized. So we work with languages, we are into publishing, we work with arts and craft of tribal communities, we are into healthcare, development, and education. So, and we find that all these issues and aspects are interconnected. So unlike NGOs who are working maybe one or two areas, we work with several. And I think Bhasha's distinct feature is also that we'll work especially in languages and culture that not many organizations are into. That is all that I would like to add.